All right, this is continuation of class 16 on Wednesday, October 14th. We left off at openings. We'll jump back in there at that point. We left off at ceilings, actually. We're putting ceilings back in place how they're supposed to be. So once you have your ceiling set per room, let's jump back into 3D. For this ceiling that we have here that was left, I'm going to just go ahead and delete it. With my ceiling in place in the stairwell, we'll see that when it came in, the default is set to 8 foot. So right now, to 10 foot. So right now our ceiling is above our floor plane. So we want to drop that below. Remember, in order to put that in place, we're going to change our height offset. Now, since this is 10 feet, I'm going to guess that the proper placement for this is going to be 9 foot 2 inches. So that's 9 foot 2. And apply. Since the default ceiling that they have in place right now is actually, if we go to that 2 1/4 inches thick, you see that's not actually going to be where we want it. It's not going to be showing underneath that flooring. So let's change that to 9 foot. And for what we need, that will work at this moment. So what we want is something where that ceiling is underneath that floor. If you wanted to go down another inch, you could probably make that flush. But for what we need right now, we can go ahead and just leave that in place. And what we need to do with the ceiling right now is actually edit the shape of it. So much like we did with the second floor, so we can have somebody walk through that. So how are we going to do that? Let me go ahead and click on that floor, make it active. I'm going to go to my ceiling plan level 1, and I'm going to hit edit boundary. Much like we created the shape of this flooring, on the second floor, we're going to do the same thing with this. And I'm just going to trace that same shape that we have of that second floor. I'm going to use my corner tool to trim off those extraneous ends. I'll hit my green check mark. Let's go back to 3D, see what it looks like. And we have something that is flush against that underside of that floor. So we're going to repeat the same thing for our second floor. We're going to click on that floor, make it active. Actually, let me go to floor plan level 2. Actually, that's my floor plan level 3. And with that floor active, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit edit boundary this time. And we'll do something slightly different. Actually, the best way to do it is to create just edit boundary where we change the shape of this space. But I want to show you another option that you could do. If you have like a floor, anything that's running through the middle of this floor, say if the staircase is running through the middle of it and it's right here, it'd be really hard to to create an edit boundary where it would actually kind of go around this floor and not, it wouldn't look right. So there's another way we can do it where we can use a cut opening, and we can just use like our rectangle tool. And if we just draw this space right here and hit our green check mark, it's actually going to create a hole in the floor. So you can see that's the hole that we created. We can do the same thing over here, but it is just going to be easier to manipulate that shape itself to do the edit boundary. Let's do it both ways so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to take the floor, make it active. I'm going to hit edit boundary. And if I would just wanted to use this rectangular tool, I need to leave just a little bit of space on either side of it. This is why this is not great, but I just want you to see how it works. What's the problem with that is it's going to leave this little bit of boundary line. There may be times that you want to have that left there, but it's always better to use the edit boundary line and just edit the whole thing out. So you can see that there's two different ways that we can do that. We can create that whole space like this using those particular shapes or just drawing that, or we can go back and do it the other way. So let's go back and do it the other way because it does look better. I'm going to go back to level 3. Remember, we're going to hit edit boundary. This is where we want to change the shape of this. Pull that back to here, and we're just going to draw that other shape in place. Use our corner tool to trim off that extra bit. Green check mark, 3D. And we've got something that looks like this. So this looks weird again. Let me hide this window. So it looks weird because this floor should be coming right up to, this staircase should be coming flush with this floor. So there's something up with this floor. So I'm going to click on this floor again, see what's going on with it. This one is set to level 3, but this one does have another height offset of 10 inches. So we want to make sure that these are always not offset. These floors should come in at the correct level. Now let's set that to 0. When we apply that, we'll notice that floor will drop into place. And now that has the correct placement at this time. Now we have our 2 staircases in place. They don't look too bad. So once again, if I was working in this space right here, I'd go to my level 2 ceiling. I'd add a ceiling in level 2. Let's go to 3D. When I look at my ceiling in level 2, it's not where I want it to be. It's hanging out here too high. So with that ceiling active, I want to change that to 9 foot. And that's going to drop that ceiling where I want it to be. Next thing I want to do is I want to change that shape of that ceiling so it follows this space. So go back to level 2. Oops. And level 2, thank you. Edit boundary. Green check mark, 3D. And now you'll see that ceiling looks like it's supposed to. So once again, we're learning how to put in our staircase. We're going to use the staircase with landing, the straight run staircase with landing. And then we're going to cut the floors and the ceiling in order for people to walk through there. Last thing we have going on right here with the stairs is we have this lovely space right here for somebody to walk right off the ledge down below. So we need to add a railing on that. So how are we going to do that? We're going to go to our level 3. And we're going to go to Architecture tab, circulation panel, and then just our railing tool. We'll just use that default railing tool, and we'll come in here and we'll just draw that railing in place where we need it to be. Green check mark, 3D, and there we have our railing set. This is actually kind of hanging over. Some of these are directional arrows just to bump it over a little bit so it's hanging where it's supposed to be instead of right over the railing. Once again, if we pick on this section of railing in our properties, we'll notice it said it's just the railing and its base level is 3. Remember that also you can, if you end up drawing it on the wrong level, you can change the level simply by changing that base level constraint. And we'll throw that back up to level 3. Any questions on stairs? They get a little confusing. It does get a little frustrating. Just takes practice for now. But if you end up with something that just kind of looks like this, you'll be doing quite well. But any questions about that at the moment?
I have a question.
Yes.
Most of us, like the floor level is 10 feet. That mean we change it to 8 feet?
No, we're keeping it the floor level at 10 feet.
And
So
this will be like more than 18, right, step?
Yeah, it's going, the stairs are driven by the parameters that are within, that are set in your properties right now. So when we have that second level, level 2, remember, we're going to have that, excuse me, defaulted to 10 feet. If you wanted shorter ceilings, if you wanted those set to 8, and I don't recommend that for this commercial building, I wouldn't do that. The height of the stairs would fluctuate depending on, you know, obviously it wouldn't go up to level 2. It wouldn't go up to 10 feet if level 2 is set to 8 feet.
Okay, because now with the 8 feet, it's supposed to be like 18 step, right?
It's 18 steps based on the parameters that we have in here now, based on the 10 feet, because this is set at 10 feet. 10 feet right here.
Okay.
If I change that to 8 feet, like I just did here, notice how that shrunk? Because the staircase moves with the height of this. I'm not sure if it changed the number of steps. It's probably a lot of information that was changed when we changed the height of that, because when we look at these steps, if we go into them, okay, it's still set to the number of steps 18. A lot of this is default. The actual tread size is 11. What changed is that riser height. So it did keep the number of steps at 18. It just changed that riser height at this point. So a lot of that is pre-programmed into Revit, how it'll manipulate that and change that. So if we change this back to 10 foot, notice everything moved at the same time there. If I go back to my steps, you can see the actual riser height is what changed. And when you get into more advanced steps, you can manipulate and change all this stuff how you want it to be, how it pertains to your particular building. But what we need to know for now is that all these numbers and these calculations, Revit works on, you know, automatically for you to make it a little bit easier, but you can change these once you get into more an advanced level of Revit. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Just for what we're doing right now in this project, we're keeping just the basics on here and just doing the basic Revit staircase. It can do more advanced stairs, and you can manipulate all that. We're in this class in Revit, trust me, we're barely scratching the surface. This is just basics, so you can learn how to manipulate and work through this on an intro level. but it does a lot more than what we kind of get through in this class. It's just so you can get the basics down. But yeah, it does a lot more than that. But just if we change the height of it, it's preset to have 18 stairs. We can play with this later, but I would just leave this as is. But you can see that when we change the height from 10 foot to 8 foot, it changed that actual riser height. As you can see, this is kind of grayed out, so we can't change that. We could change the other information, but we're not going to. You can play with it, you know, and I definitely recommend you doing that on a separate project. But for this one, let's keep everything universal and kind of use it as the default. Okay. Any other questions, y'all? All right, so we talked about stair types. We talked about the railings. We talked about how to edit holes and edit floors and cut holes. Now let's talk about something else called sweeps and reveals for our walls. So what I mean by that is, let me reset everything on here. For the walls that you already have in place, we can use this. We can kind of play with it. What I'd like you to do is just kind of add a couple of these to your model. So your client is requesting a couple of things like this. And what this does is just kind of adds interest to the building facade. Think about the way the building looks on the City Collier campus. There's some decorative trim on the outside. And we can add these to our different walls. So when we add them to the walls that we already have active, it's going to add them to all of them at the same time. If you wanted to just be on front part of the house, of the building, then you could have that. Then you can have that just on a new wall type. But for the walls that we already have in place, we're just going to use that right now. So what I need to do to create that is with the wall that I have active, I'm going to come over here to my properties. I'm going to go into edit type. And when I go into edit type, you're going to notice that your screen should look like this, but there's this preview button on the bottom left. And when you do that, it's going to give you an image that looks like this or like this. So obviously this is a top-down view. It's a plan view. If you cut that wall, how that wall would be created. But we want to look at it from this viewpoint. Then I'm going to jump into edit. And the person that has this model, will notice like automatically there's a couple of things that are off on here. Remember when we create this section of our building, we want to make sure that the only thing within the core boundary is the structural unit. So we want to move this brick up outside of the core boundary, and we want to move this gyp down outside of the core boundary. The other thing that I see wrong here is we forgot to change the function on here. So this is going to be a function finish level 1, and this is your interior side, so it's function finish layer 2. So we always want to make sure that we have something that looks like this as far as our wall structure is concerned. I do take a look at this on all of your drawings. So I'm going to jump into brick. I just want to take a look at this while I'm here. Forgot to click user under appearance. We always want to make sure that we have that checked. And then for my other materials, we have user under appearance there. And on chipboard, we have user under appearance there. So it's just a matter of practice of going over and make sure you have all this stuff laid out correctly. All right, so how do we do sweeps and reveals, and what are they? So we jump down here to the modify vertical structure section. Well, you'll notice we have an option where we can create sweeps or reveals. Sweeps are like an addition, that kind of like an outcropping from the walls, and reveals kind of like create an inset from the walls, kind of create a decorative wall finish. It makes more sense as we just kind of do it. So I'm going to go into sweeps. I'm going to go into add. And you can load a profile if you have a particular brickwork that you like, that you want to create. You can create that in a family and then load that profile. We're just going to use the default that we have in here for now. So there's a limited number of things that we can use. Let's just use this wall sweep 1. And then you can select what material you want it to use. I'm going to use this parking stripe yellow just because it's bright and we can see it. Here we can set the distance where we want it to show up. I'm going to put this at 3 foot. Hit apply. Okay. Should have had this zoomed out. So when I start doing that, this is what's starting to happen. This addition is coming out here. So this is kind of sticking out really far. So I'm going to go back to my sweep. And if I want this to be like offset some, if I set this back to negative 1.5 inches, and apply, notice how it's getting recessed in there. It's not sticking out as far anymore. So now if I hit OK, and I'll hit OK, OK all the way out of here, we have this band that kind of shows up around the building. And this could add some really interesting design work to your different buildings. Obviously, this would be more like a stone. If you wanted, this is brick. If you wanted this to be a stone color, you would use create a stone material to have that look. And it's just another way to add some design interest to the building. So that will run around there. So let's do that again. So on the same wall type, I'm going to go into Edit Type, Edit. I'm going to add another sweep on here. Say if I wanted to load a profile that's already in here, I could go into Load Profile. At this point, I'm going to go down to Profiles, Division Profiles. There's a couple different ones that we can choose from. Let me think. Slabs, walls. So here we have some other wall types we can choose from. We'll show you how to add crown molding in a little bit. There's a way you can add a parapet. The interesting part is when you can actually draw the shape that you want and have that added. So this looks weird. I'm just going to see if I can use this as an example for y'all. So I'm going to do Add and go back to Default. Add that. I'm going to use my parking stripe again because it's bright. I'm going to set that to 9 feet. Okay, so it is working. This is not what we wanted. I'm just using this as an example for you, how that looks. So let's just add it and see what happens. There we go. So you can see how at the top of the building, this would look really nice just to kind of add that finish. And there's ways that we can add parapets and things like that. But I'm just showing this to you, this particular shape for you, so you can use that as a design idea. But they have other ones in there you can play with profiles. But just to kind of use the ones that we have already in there, soldier view or things like that, you can do that. If you want to get fancy, you can use one of these other ones. But let's go back in there again, Edit Type, Edit, Sweeps. It's more of a parapet, which would be on the top of your exterior wall at the roof, but just to show you the shape of what that looks like. So you can change just all sorts of different things. If we did 2 bricks, this would be a thicker version of it. I change that to the thickness to the thick, which is now the thickness of 2 bricks on here. So that's how we can add different 3D dimensional views on here as far as sweeps are concerned. Now let's see what the difference is with reveals. So we're going to do the same thing with this wall type active. I'm going to go into edit type, edit again, and this time I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use a reveal. And you can take a look at the examples over here as they pop up. So once again, I'm going to add one. I'm just going to use my default. And this is the only thing I have right here, still the bricks. Let's do 3 this time. Distance from base, let's make this 15 feet. And let's apply that. So you can see that it's right here. And it's actually cut out this space. If you wanted this to be a deeper space that you wanted it cut out, you could offset that. Let's just do a -1 inch. Oops, should be 1 inch. How it's set that back deeper so you can have a deeper reveal. We'll hit OK out way out of here. Now you see how we set that. How that is set back. So what I'd like you to do is add a couple of sweeps and reveals to the exterior of your building. If you only wanted this on one side, what you would have to do is take this wall, duplicate and rename it, and then you could add the sweeps and reveals to it. Because remember, since we changed the entire wall type itself, that's why I changed them all at the same time. So if you just wanted it on the front, you just have to take this wall type, go into edit type. You would duplicate it. You would have this one with sweeps. We have got a lot to talk about today, don't we? Then if we go back into this other wall type, and with the sweeps, I'll delete these. And when we go back out, the only wall that has the sweeps on is the front one. I left the reveal in place on these, but this way we have 2 different wall types. This is the wall with the sweeps on. This is the regular wall type. You can kind of mix and match like that, how you want it to. But for today's class, what we'll have you do is, I want you to kind of play with the different types of stairs that we went over today, so you kind of understand them a little bit better. For the actual project itself, you're going to use stairs with landings, and you're going to need to add in that additional railing. You will need to know how to edit the floors to create that cut opening for the stairs and the ceilings, and you will need to add some sweeps and reveals. We touched briefly again on wall heights and ceiling heights, how those are supposed to be adjusted. And then you continue working on your renovation, your floor plan work like that. I'm going to go ahead and set up a new model that's going to be due on Saturday. What I'll probably be doing is sending out an email for y'all and trying to work on this one-on-one. Obviously, we had a lot to go over today, so I didn't get a chance to go over these different personal projects as much as I would like. But I want to work with y'all one-on-one as far as working with your design, because I think that's really going to help you. But we did have a lot to go over today. Any questions about today's work? All right, if anything comes up, remember you can always text me, and then I'll be reaching out to y'all and seeing about working with y'all individually on your different designs, because I think that would probably definitely help y'all a little bit, and then we can go from there. But that's it for today. A lot of work for today. I'll get these class recordings up as soon as possible so you can review it, and you know, if you need any help, just send me a text and we can kind of go over it from there. So that's it for today, y'all.
I have a question, but it's not class related.
Okay. Do you want to ask now or have everybody drop?
it doesn't matter.
Okay, if you want to ask, yeah, go ahead.
Do they have virtual what you call it? Virtual advisors?
Virtual advisors, I'm not sure. They probably do. I'm sure they do. You could probably call your advisor and set up a time. They could probably do. I don't see why they couldn't set up a Zoom meeting for you.
Okay. That was another question. I can't believe I forgot.
Well, just text me.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.